The next thing we're going to do here is talk about what happens when you add more than one light to a subject. So a lot of times you'll have a scenario that we just had where you have light on one side of a person and shadows on the other, and you might have a shadow coming off the nose of somebody and you're thinking, oh, I'll just pop a little light in there and it'll get rid of that nasty shadow. That won't work. And I want to show you why it won't work. In fact, what it will do is it will start causing big issues in your lighting setup that can be frustrating. And so we're going to set this up really fast. And it'll take us just a second. So this is working with multiple lights. We're going to use normal hard lights on this. And as we set this up, you will see that you've probably dealt with this before. All right. And these reflectors go to about 5. Goes to 5. All right. Turn this guy on. All right. Any questions while I'm setting this stuff up? I think we're good, but...
You guys have any questions in the audience? Everybody's doing all right? What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I got one for you, Mark.
Okay.
Deerfield Photography says, I know you talked about modifiers yesterday, but what are the properties of the beauty dishes that make them preferable to softboxes in certain circumstances?
The light is more directional from a beauty dish. That's one. And so you get a more directional light. You get more... So there are two concepts in art, shape and form. And it has to do with the direction of light. And so, Lex, can you come out just for a second again? So what happens, and we talked about this a little bit. I'm going to blind you just a bit. So I want you to stand, if you could, right there, looking straight forward toward the audience. Let me see if I can get this softbox off here. And so what happens is, if you have a two-dimensional object, like this speed ring, oh my gosh. All right, here it comes. Yes. All right, there we go. Thank you. By the way, this is one of those things that makes me complain about light stands. If they're a little bit, yeah, I'm going to stop. But yeah, if they're not tight and they move around like that, it's harder to manipulate the lights. Okay, so if we have this to the side right here, you know we have contrast. We talked about that. If we have a light that is behind, we have this silhouette. And normally, if light was coming straight from behind, we'd have a silhouette, and it would be totally black. And that is called shape. If you have a silhouette on something, shape is something that we can easily identify, even though it has no three-dimensional properties. So if you can do a profile shot, let's do it this way. So let's say we have Lex this way, and we have our light behind her. We would see her profile, and if it was a true silhouette, we would know it was a person, right? Because we identify with that shape. This is children's art. We know that their mushrooms are actually trees, right? They're not mushroom clouds, they're trees. And their little square boxy pointy things are houses, and their whatever things are dogs. No tree house or dog looks the way that kids draw them, right? None. But we know what they are because we identify with those shapes. Okay, so two-dimensional things are strong in shape, and those things tend to be monochromatic because they're usually silhouetted. So if you come back around here, if we take our light and we move this way, sorry about this, it's coming in. Here we go. We'll try to make this a little less painful for you. Okay, if we move this way, and it's hard to see with all these lights on, but what's happening is we go from a light that's silhouetting her to a light that's now casting some shadows. And what that does is it takes a two-dimensional object and it makes it three-dimensional. And that three-dimensionality is called form. And so when you go from shape to form, you do that by the direction of light. And then what was the question? Because I know I was going somewhere to answer this question. It was the beauty dish. Yes, thank you. That's what it was. So the beauty dish. Why use the beauty dish? The answer is it's all about that thing, which is how do you create form on a face? How do you create three-dimensionality on a face? And what a beauty dish does is it's a little bit harder light, and so you get shadows right here on the cheekbones, you get shadows underneath the chin, you get shadows behind the ears, on the nose, and it's a little bit harder, more directional light, and so it makes people look a little bit more three-dimensional. It's great for form, but it's still large and soft, and so it doesn't make everybody have horrible skin and those kinds of things. So that's why a beauty dish is better in some circumstances than a softbox, because the softbox is so flat, it gives light so evenly everywhere that you're losing some of those shadows which create form. So that was a long answer to why to use a beauty dish. Thank you. Okay, whew. You know it's a long answer when you forget the question when you're there. Okay, we need to turn this guy on in a second. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the problem. No, but we're going to shoot with Lex in a minute. Oh, no, we're fine. So here's the problem. We'll have the cornicello just staying right there. He's just going to hide behind the monitor. If you have one light, it behaves very, very obviously, predictably. Thank you. That's the word, predictably. Not enough coffee yet. A light comes in, it hits something, and that something is going to cast a shadow. Right here, we got this shadow that's being cast. And so sometimes what we want to do is we want to add a second light to fix this shadow. Let's say this shadow is on somebody's face and it's caused by their nose, and we want to fix this, we don't like it. So we'll add a second light. Let's add this second light. So what happens here is you didn't eliminate the shadow at all. What you did is you created a dark shadow in the center, and you just created another shadow. So now we have our light, we've got a shadow, we've got light, we have a shadow, we have light, and then we have a dark shadow. And we've created all kinds of problems. And so the answer to eliminating shadows is not always adding another light, because you're in a lot of times creating even more shadows. And the reason for that is, let's go back, don't turn that off yet, but this shadow right here, the thinking is when we add the second light, that will just eliminate the shadow because that light's going to wash that away. But remember, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 1. So when we add this light, it's creating light that's coming this direction and this direction. So we have this shadow here. But when we add the second light, it's doing the exact opposite and creating a shadow here. So this light is lightening this shadow, but we have 1 light + 1 light equals 2 lights together here, 2 lights together here, 2 lights together here. The shadow from one light here being washed out a little bit by that light, the shadow from a different light here being washed out by a different light, and then an absence of light in the middle. And it just creates all kinds of wackiness. So how do we fix this issue? And so what I want to do is we're going to actually create a really not pleasing portrait of Lex with these kind of shadows. And this will be her nose, and it'll be awesome. We're going to start seeing shadows all over her face. And we're going to try to figure out, like, how do we fix this if we're not using really broad diffused light? What's the solution to that? Are you ready? Okay, yeah. She doesn't know. She never knows that I'm going to do stuff like this. Okay, so let's bring both of those lights out, John. And so Lex doesn't have a very big nose. We're going to have to work hard on this to make it, yeah, you're welcome. So, yeah, with me, we'd be like shadow all day long, right? It's like, rah. All right, awesome. I'll take this. Take this guy here. You're stepping on that. All right, I'm just going to unplug this for us right now. All right. Okay, so we're going to duplicate what we did on the wall, except we're going to do this with Lex. It'll be great. On her face. It's going to be wonderful. Going to be great. And these lights aren't super bright, so it won't hurt you too much. All right. Okay, so we have this light over here, and John, do we have enough cable to reach?
Yes, I think so.
Think so? Okay. Got that here. Yeah, we're going to need an extension cord at some point. Yep. Not enough extension cords. It's going to go right on the other side.
Okay.
Right on the other side. There we go. Okay. Have this guy over here. Sorry. It's great. Yep, it's 2 lights.
There's a quarter of the floor behind you.
Perfect. Perfect. We like to do workshops with lots of moving parts. The more moving parts, the better. Okay. So we're going to create this shadow. It's nice and flattering. It's great. It is. It's awesome. All right. We've got to see if we can actually make a shadow. There we go. Making a nasty shadow. Okay. And we'll do the other side. Can you turn that one off just for a second? Make a nasty shadow on that side. Okay. We're going to start with that light. We'll meter. So we'll meter this light. Here's the light meter. It's in my pocket. Okay. And that's at 9. So we're going to shoot at 9. I'm going to let you hold that. So we'll shoot this at f9, just so we can see the shadow and the problem. It sounds like a C.S. Lewis book, The Shadow and the Problem. It's awesome. Okay, now we have very high contrast light with a nasty nose shadow. There it is. All right, so rookie way to fix this, we're going to add a second light. And then if you could meter that for me, John. 13. Watch this. This is not going to have any shadows. I just feel it. I feel it. Yeah, no shadows. Look at that. It's wonderful. We'll try to even get harder light than this. Yeah. So what we're seeing here is no shadows at all because our modifiers are making this light too broad. Let's make it even harder. Even harder if possible. Harder lights. 9. Yeah, and if we can't get the shadows to be horrible, all right, so don't smile because we want to see if we can get more, yeah, and be mean. There we go. Okay, let's see if we have the shadows that we don't like. One of the problems with this is we're working in such a small environment, and it's so highly reflective, we're getting lots of light coming in. And if we don't see those, the last thing we can do is add some grids. We might do some grids to really eliminate that light. We are seeing a shadow here and a shadow here, just a little bit. It's not as pronounced as I'd like to do that. Let's see if we can get some grids on here to really, let's do 10-degree grids. I'm going to really try to introduce some shadows on there. There's a 10. Yep. Yeah, another 10 over there. When demos go wrong, that should be another
They may have moved it over.
Discovery Channel thing.
There it is.
This is one of the things, by the way, we didn't try first before we did it here, because I've done it a bunch of times before. So we're going to get a grid. Are there questions as we're setting up this awesome demo to show you how to control shadows that don't exist? This is how you control shadows that don't actually exist in the shot. It's sort of like, you know, when your car isn't working right, and it's got a weird sound, and you take it to the mechanic, and then it doesn't make the sound. Then you drive a couple feet, and it makes the sound again. Okay, let's try. I'm going to even bring these back a little bit. All right, can you meter that for me? 3.2. Okay, so here's what we're also going to do. I'm going to increase the light considerably so that we're shooting at like 22 or something. 18. Okay. I feel like we're having some, we're introducing light from the studio. Okay, see what we have here. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, so now we're starting to see these shadows popping up on the side of the nose. Can you see that? Okay, let me check my computer to see if it's even more apparent. Yeah, it is. Okay, so instead of being able to just, sometimes, in this situation, we were able to add just a second light. Sometimes, when we have that problem with shadows showing up, adding a second light doesn't work. And the answer is, what's actually happening here that's sort of frustrating, is it's better to have more diffused light to fill in those shadows. So what's going on in this scenario here with a lot of the things that we're encountering is, A, we're pretty close, and so the effective size of our light is pretty large. And so the light is actually wrapping around. We also have a very small nose, so that's an issue. Maybe we can do this. Your nose is too small. Things that most people never hear. Your nose is too small. Grow a nose. Let's see if we can do it this way. So we have that. The other thing that is happening is we have very reflective surfaces here. So let's try, I'm just going to shoot this and we won't have to remeter it. We don't have to remeter it. Yeah, so now we're not even seeing those. But the solution is to do what we're accidentally doing, and that is finding a way to wrap that light around the subject. So let's just say we have a nasty shadow that we can't eliminate because we have somebody with a big nose. Your nose is too small. Your nose is too small. Watch this. We're going to shoot, and we'll have no shadow on just one light because of some kind of crazy Lex powers. Can you meter that for me?
13.
13, okay. All right, so we have this very, very large shadow on the opposite side of her face. In this scenario, let's say when we added the second light, we actually did get this nasty shadow over here because we didn't have any light bouncing around, any of that kind of stuff. The solution to this is instead of either we want this shadow, right? If we want it, then fine, leave it alone. If we don't want it, we need to change the properties of light that we're using, make it larger, or change the direction of light so that this shadow goes away. So let's try to make this light larger by just doing what we did before. Take out the grid, zoom this back a little bit. We'll move it in just a hair, and then let's meter that light. 13. We'll see that shadow is not going to go away. It's going to get maybe a little less pronounced, like that. If we take this light and put it on axis, this is normally what I do to eliminate a shadow. I do that, and then we'll meter that. Go ahead. 10. We still have a little bit of side light there, but that's going away. But the most effective thing to do is make this a really large light source, and that's just going to wrap around the subject and eliminate that altogether. So it's frustrating that this demo is not working out because, trust me, when you add multiple lights in a lot of scenarios, you will get those cross shadows, and by adding more lights, it just doesn't work. So I don't want to spend too much more time trying to create a problem that doesn't exist in this environment, but I want to make sure you understand the principle that if you do have those shadows and you're trying to eliminate them, the way to do that is not necessarily to add a second light. In this situation, it actually worked okay, but it is to change the direction of light or change the property of light. So if you don't want the shadow, then use all the rules that we learned to eliminate those shadows by making a larger wraparound light or change the position. That's the best way to do that. Okay, so that was a fun, non-working demo. Are there questions on that?
Medic 1811 had asked a question a while back, and this is with shadows, or how do you light the background to eliminate shadows, or do you ever use a green screen for that?
Oh, okay. Actually, Lex, we need you to come back. I'm sorry. Kidding. Okay, great question. So shadows on the background. So we'll do this. We're going to light Lex with a nasty shadow on the background, and here's the meter. John, you can meter her. So, in fact, maybe we'll try eliminating the shadow on the background with a second light. 9. Okay. So now we're going to have a light and a shadow. So here's the problem that we have. Big shadow on the background, just like that. So there's a couple things that you can do. Thank you. So I'm just going to pop some light onto the background from here, and we'll see how that looks. So I'm shining this right where the shadow is. 13. So that is at 13, which is, and I'll widen that out. So now try that again. 4.5. Try it one more time. So by the way, did you see that? We went from F13 to 4.5, and all I did was zoom this light with the reflector. So that is an amazing amount of difference. 5, 6. And then one more time. 5, 6. And then try it one more time. 10. Okay, so 10. So the background light is brighter than the key light. So when we metered that, we said, and this one metered at what? This was at 9, is that right? I
I
think that
believe
was
so.
it.
Let's try it again.
Yeah. So our key light was at 9, our background light was at 10, and so our background should be brighter than our foreground, and let's see what happens to that shadow back there. It goes away, but it introduces a problem. So watch this. So it eliminates the shadow because the light on the background, the light back here, is brighter than the light from here, and so this basically goes to completely white. This is not a good thing to do necessarily, because when we look at the edges of hair, it does this weird thing to hair. See that? And the brighter this gets, the weirder these little fine threads of hair become. It almost looks like the hair has been burned a little bit. Yeah, because light is reflecting from that background, and two things are happening. This is really bright. Light is reflecting. It's coming through her hair and creating all those issues. But that light is also going all the way to the lens, and it's lowering contrast on our image. So that is something you can do to eliminate the shadows on the background. Just make sure that the light that's hitting the background is brighter than your key light. But if you have a white background, you can have some issues. If you have a dark background, you can start seeing the shape of the light, so that can give you some issues. The other thing you can do to eliminate the light on the background is to change the height of the light. So right now, we see our background, we see the shadow on Lex very clearly. If I raise this up, again, I'm changing the lighting style here. If I change this, light this up a little bit, and then let's go ahead and meter that. 7.1, okay. You'll see that that shadow has migrated from right next to her, which was what we had earlier, from there to really bright to now it's down in the corner. So we're changing where that shadow is based on the position of our light. The other thing that you can do to eliminate a shadow is to move your subject farther from the background. And so the farther you get away, the more that you can isolate those two different things. And then we could start working with the light on the background and making it not quite as bright as it is right now. And you could sort of have a nice white background that's not reflecting so much light into the lens. Yes?
Would it be a solution to put probably 2 lights on the background to kind of counterbalance?
And we're going to learn about something called angle of reflection, which is influencing how much light is coming back into the lens. Normally what I would do if I was shooting on a background is we would be using large umbrellas. The large white umbrellas are used commonly to do that, and you would do a couple of those, or some soft boxes. And the reason for that is it changes how the light reflects from the background to the subject. The other thing you can do is this is a semi-glossy, sort of a flat white. Seamless comes in different flavors of reflectivity. So you can get a really highly glossy background and less glossy. And I usually get the less glossy because I don't want that white to be reflective as much. So there's like super bright and there's like normal white. Thanks for now. Okay, other questions? Okay.
Yes, sir. From PMD, can the separator hair light be used from a low angle? Have you ever used it from down below?
Yes.
And what instance would you do that and why?
Yeah, you can use it from, because you know what? You really can't tell a lot of times where the direction of light is when it's coming from behind. And so somebody was asking, like, how do you get the boom stand, right? How do you do that? Sometimes you don't need one. You can just put a light on the ground shining up. And what that does two things. A, now you don't need a boom stand anymore. And B, you're not worrying about light shining into the lens because it's just shining up into the ceiling. So that works. The one reason I don't do that a lot is then you don't get the light on the shoulders. You don't get that, and you don't get it on the top of the head. And so if you want a hair light and you want to highlight somebody's hair, it needs to come from above. But if you just need separation, then below works just fine. In fact, we're going to do one that's on the ground in a little bit.